I'm going to have you guys come up here if you don't care. Right now it's going to be a women in technology panel until the guys from Perspecta come back. And I'll have them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they did, your degree, and kind of how you got into where you're at today. And I'll let Danielle start.
I'm Danielle Cox. I'm the acting Chief Information Security Officer for the Executive Branch of West Virginia. I have a business, running business at the time at UCIT. I have a master in I'm not going to wrap. I started in marketing and did communications, IT related stuff like that. And then I just progressed into the security world and information security officer.
Development manager for courts. My bachelor's is in, my associate's is in management technology. So I've been in an HR function for the last 12 years. So I'm that person that when you send over the resume, that will be taking a look. Or if you don't send a resume, I'll be the person that sends you that rejection email saying sorry.
So make friends fast.
So and I can help you with, how to dress, how to interview, what these individuals, what we're looking for as an organization as well. So thanks for listening to me today.
I'm Skye Reymond. I graduated from Marshall in 2014 with a degree in math. And then I got my master's from Northwestern University in data science. Shortly after, I got a job as a data scientist at a place called Terbium Labs, which is where I work now. They're a cybersecurity company, tech startup out in Baltimore, and they specialize in dark web crawls. So we monitor for customer data on the dark web. What I do for them is I do a couple different things. I work on natural language processing models for them, and I also work on what's called an algorithmic crawler. And it is an algorithm that basically tells our crawler what sites in the dark web to crawl. And so that's what I've been doing for them for the past 6 months.
So I'm Karen Mayerik. I am a systems engineering manager at Cisco, the networking company. And I actually did a couple different things. I was an information systems major and an accounting minor, but got recruited right away into Cisco, into our, we have an intern program, but we also have a right out of college program as well. So I trained for 6 months and I learned everything I could about networking. Took a week of wireless, 2 weeks of security, 2 weeks of voice, and then I moved into our sales organization. And so I worked as a consulting engineer for customers for about 7 years, then specialized in wireless, working with a lot of healthcare, schools, county, governments, higher eds. And then I moved into a product management role at Cisco. So I worked on our latest launch around digital networking architecture, which talks about our new hardware and software platforms. So I did that for about 4 years, and then just recently I moved in, and now I'm a people leader. So I have engineers that report to me that cover Ohio and West Virginia for state and local and education customers.
Cool. So this is your panel. So the floor is open to you guys to ask questions while you have the advantage of having these professionals in front of you. So.
I have one for you, actually. Is there anything specific that you look for, like in developing a resume or when reviewing someone else's resume? Is there anything that stands out more?
So I did not share what these ladies shared. So Core 10 is a full service software development company. So we work like an agile shop. We look at, Marshall's done a really great job. We've had 3 great hires just right out of Marshall when the company first started right here in Huntington, and they've been a huge asset, my go-to individuals. But C#, Java, Python, just all of that at the junior level. You don't necessarily have to have the work experience. It's the college experience is what we're looking for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you mean by college experience?
So what you've learned in the classroom, so over your years of experience, make sure that that's something that you list, you know, what you learned here, in, for instance, in Mr. Morgan's class. I believe that you're working on some Agile right now, so make sure you know, have that listed. Agile, Java, Python, C#. Ruby at one time was something that we were looking for, you know, individuals with some Ruby experience, whether it be in the classroom or real world experience. We have some developers that are self-taught, they kind of taught themselves. So just any type of experience, I would definitely put on your resume. I mean, it's something that we can definitely talk about during the interview process. When you list it, we'll talk about it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we really don't care if you cut grass
Yeah.
in high school. That is like something I see with intern applications, and you know, you might have worked some side jobs, but cutting grass is not one of those things we really care that's on your resume.
Yeah, the classroom experience is pretty
Yes.
important, especially at the junior level. For the
I want to
junior
know what you've
entries.
been trained for.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, we've talked to Bryant several times. I don't know if you utilize him or not, but he understands what we're looking for, I think, as far as our individual, you know, entry-level hires.
Thank you.
What she's saying is change maker.
That's one thing I'd have to say, even DFIA majors, where sort of the cybersecurity scary stuff, we have graduates that go on to become web developers, software developers, because they take Brian's classes as part of their degree. So they have development skills.
So for the rest of you, what kind of experience specifically, like what languages, what kind of frameworks, or what kind of certifications are you looking for?
So for the state's perspective, we're a full security shop. We literally have every component of cybersecurity underneath us. When we have people coming in, we don't necessarily care if you have a particular degree. We have a history major he has every single procedure and policy written down. He's one of the best assets in our team. He's a history major with IT as a secondary or something. The ability to problem solve, communicate, and write are the things that we look for. We expect to teach or provide education to get you up to the next level of your career. So we like to see that foundation be laid, and somebody that's willing to work that. So not necessarily hard skills, but those soft skills are something that really catches our eye. People that can look us in the eye when they're in a presentation or an interview. It's fabulous.
I think the important part is when you enter the workforce, no matter what field it is when you first start, yeah, you've learned all of this stuff in school, but when you first start your job is, I had a Toyota manager that would time to our co-ops and our instance, the workforce on the floor. Don't go in saying, here's what we need to do to change. You go in understanding that you don't know everything that you think you know. And I think that's important, especially, there's even an entry level, even at my level, when you enter, how to adapt.
Before I switched over to the private, you have you can go buy anything. It takes me 2 years or something, and the IT staff is literally spread across the state. And nobody knows who's in charge, what you want to replace. So.
What I do is a little bit different. Probably data science. I'm a self-taught coder, so when I graduated from Marshall, I had a math degree, but had never coded anything in my life. When I went into grad school at Northwestern, I learned on the fly. It was supposed to be, you're supposed to have some sort of programming experience when you got in. I did not, so I just kind of learned as I went. I couldn't tell you how to build a web page or do any of the cool stuff that I'm sure that you guys know how to do. But I can, what I do is I use Python, SAS, and R, and it's much more data-driven, so I use it to analyze data. And So the tools for us, when I started at Terbium, I had only used R in my professional experience. I had used SAS and Python in school, but I never used it at my job. I was a supply chain manager before switching to Terbium. And so, yeah, for us, I think it was just, they knew that I had the ability to learn how to program on my own, and so that seemed to matter more to them. And I did pick it up quickly. So.
Sorry, I should have thought about getting you guys chairs. Perspecta has joined us. So if you guys want to come up real quick and introduce yourselves again to those.
Ooh, that's a big chair.
There you go, Jamie.
Wait, I'm gonna fall out of that big chair.
Another one and then.
Yeah, we'll let the guys do that one right there. I'm too short to hop up in that chair.
So from Cisco's perspective, we have a number of different business units, right? We have everything around the teams that are actually developing the product, and our software and hardware engineering in both areas. From a sales perspective, there's sort of two tracks. There's someone that is the account manager, and we look to working with the customer to figure out what business outcomes that they want to get to. And then we have the sales engineer that is really their pair. We kind of see them as a team, a duo. And that technical engineer comes in and says, okay, based on what you're trying to do and the way that our technology works, this is how we can accomplish it. So they're the smart people. I like to say that because they work for me. But they're the smart people, right, that really kind of say, okay, based on what you're trying to do and where you are today and how you need to migrate, like this is how we can get you to where you need to be. So from a hiring perspective, right, we're really looking at people that are very curious, right? People that don't have all the answers, that can sit next to a customer and ask questions and really understand what the customer is trying to do, versus saying like, hey, I have this great product and, you have a square, but I have this round, thing, and we're just gonna stick it in, it's gonna be great. Like, that's not how we wanna partner with our customers. So we're, again, looking for curious people. We're looking for people that are always wanting to continue to learn, because our technology is always changing. The industry is always changing. Our customers are having a lot of different demands on them. So those are the types of things that we look for.
Entry-level positions we're looking.
Okay.
Skill sets, that's the question.
What do you think, Stan, in terms of entry levels?
Well, for sure, there's a major paradigm shift within the industry. Many of you may be studying computer science, learning general skills around coding, developing applications, information systems overall. There is a major paradigm shift within industry, moving business applications from traditional data centers, client server type infrastructure into the cloud. So it is nice to have and critical, I would say, at this point in your careers to begin learning about cloud technologies and the movement of applications into the cloud. You can start doing that while you're in school by taking advantage of some of the free offerings in terms of training, foundational training that Amazon offers, as well as Microsoft. So I would encourage you to do that and to seek out internships and co-ops with major corporations as well as federal agencies. So that's what I would recommend.
I think the lady at the end pointed it out. It's pretty important, is having a curious mind and being able to look at problems from a different lens, so to speak, because a lot of the I would say more seasoned employees are kind of thinking in a certain way from their experience, and to be able to have a curious person come into the mix and provide that different perspective is extremely important for us, if that makes sense.
So one of the things I've seen kind of coming through, back in the 70s and the 80s, it was assembling the systems that you're working on. So if you were in the mainframe, you were building the mainframe, you were doing the instruction code for the mainframe, and then you were trying to apply a business solution to that mainframe. And then the PCs came around, and our work went up the stack a little bit to where we were using them more as a tool and less actually building them to do it. As we're seeing going from the internet and into cloud, IT is getting a lot further away from the actual hardware that you're seeing in terms of network gear, like switches and routers and things like that. It's getting more virtual, compute is getting more virtual, and in a sense what you're doing is you're taking workloads, you're solving business problems in that new virtualized environment. So where your counterparts 30 years ago was working very low level, a lot lower on the stack, what you're going to be asked to do is a lot higher up the stack. You're going to be applying a lot of critical thinking, a lot of problem solving at bigger problems and not ones that are specific to IT itself.
As a past MIS major, how do you feel it prepared you for your career?
I was CSD.
Were you?
I was CSD. So I guess a couple of things that prepared me. One was the types of courses like programming languages or whatnot, instead of a specific technology and getting really hooked around C or C++ or Java or a technology that's here today, it was more understanding the role of the language or what a software development process looked like, so that as technology changed over time, and it's going to, I was able to kind of keep up with it because I was able to look for those common patterns and those processes to keep my skills current. So I think that was the goal or the big thing I got out of the computer science program, was just those types of courses that allowed me to prepare for technological change.
First year computer science graduate student, what skills do you see for a program manager post?
From a project
Manager or a
project management. Yeah, so project PMP, you're going to hear a lot when you get into the IT, especially as you're wanting to get into like a technical lead or a team lead or leading software development. A lot of the areas are looking for a PMP, which is a project management professional. It's through the PMI organization. So that's one of the things that you'll look at as you're doing that. That requires a certain level of education. Based upon your education level, you might have to have more hours of project management to even qualify to sit down for the exam than if you have a higher degree. So I think if you have an associate's degree, it's like 3,000 or 4,000 hours of project management experience. But if you have a master's degree, it's 2,000 hours of project management experience. That's just to qualify you to sit down and even take the exam. So think about that. It's your level of education, your experiences in project management, and then looking at those certifications that get you, certified as a project manager.
I would also add to that, if you could take a class in financial management. As a project manager, you have to manage not only schedules, but also your financial aspects in terms of meeting your financial goals as it relates to a project.
We actually, for our project managers, we fully support them taking a marketing type business class, because the ability to communicate ideas to not only the project staff, but to upper management is really critical. It can make or break a project. So yeah, having that marketing business, kind of in line with what you're talking about. Yes.
So you have to have a certification to get a job?
We don't require it. It is a bonus.
Yeah, so it depends. I'll say it depends. Some organizations, yes, it's going to be a requirement that you have that PMP certification to be a project manager. In others, it's experience, years of experience that you've had, and some it's your education and background. So it just really depends upon where you're looking. How many are undergraduates in computers? I'm going to raise it a little higher so I can kind of see. And how many are graduate? So one graduate. So of the undergraduates.
I know Michaela's business. Are there any other that are outside of technology? What's your major?
MIS.
That's technology. MIS. So those that are in the undergraduate, how many right now are considering looking at a master's program? Yeah, 3. So one of the things so you come from a very rich detail or technological background in computer science. You can program, you can code, you can build machines, you can get into the internet, you can do things in the cloud, virtualization, network, switches, firewalls. You have that really rich, deep technical background. Master's degrees you look for are probably a little less technical. You want to look into things like technology management, an MBA. That way especially if you're wanting to get into that management type of role, project management type of role, CTO, architecture, any of those types of positions, you're wanting to find those more business-like master's degrees that help you translate your technical skills or add to those technical skills with some business and some soft skills that really bring you up the stack.
And let me just add to that. We do focus a lot on advancing your degrees as well, but industry is becoming a bit specialized. For example, there's Cisco certifications, there's cloud certifications. I mean, we're seeing non-IT majors come in to our organization, getting the credentialing around the certifications and having a phenomenal IT career. We're seeing many of our MIS as well as computer science majors come in. They become technical team leads, going into the management role, then they become supervisor, into a task leader, all the way up into the project management and program management level. So the career is open. Just really hone in on some specialization as you advance your degree, as well as advance your career, whether it's IT or non-IT. But there's lots of opportunity to take advantage of some of the free training that's also available to get certifications. That will certainly add a footnote to your degrees.
Thank you. And you were saying earlier that about hiring, you look for a person who is curious and who has good problem-solving skills. But how is it accessed through the interview? Because you cannot just write it on the resume that you're curious and good.
So we'd ask questions like about your experience and talk about problems that you solved and the solutions and how effective they were. There are some technical interviews that can actually try to draw that out. I think Ruth is one of the technical recruiters, and I know that the people that she works with go through like a technical screening and things like that, and it does show a little bit of that. But it's mainly as I'm talking with you as an interviewer and asking questions, I'm trying to gauge from you what I think your problem solving or your logical skills or your communication skills are.
So I know you work more in HR. So what would you look for on a resume for
So
something
we
like
actually
that?
have kind of a 3-step process for our interview process. We do a culture phone screen, we talk to the individual, just, get to know the individual. That's my part. I'm not technical. I told you all that earlier. The technical team does do kind of what he does. They know what to ask, they know what to look for. For the technical positions, we also incorporate Hacker Rank, which is a technical exam. That gives us an idea of where you are in your skill set.
That's adorable. I love that. I might have to steal that.
At the entry level and beyond, there's different skill sets that we look for. But we have several different data points that we pull from. Our face-to-face interview, it's not just me that you're dealing with the entire time, which is good for you. Because it's not just one person's, point of view. You get several points from the resume, the college experience, the culture phone screen, the technical screen, the Hacker Rank, and then that face-to-face interview. So for instance, here in Huntington, so we're located in Huntington, Martin, and Nashville, Tennessee. So Huntington, which is where I'm at, you come in for a face-to-face interview, you're going to have a couple of other people aside from me that are going to sit through the interview. Those are the individuals that you're going to get the day-to-day stuff from. You're going to know what they're doing, and it's different levels. Usually I do an entry-level individual, mid, and then a senior or architect, for the interview, just some different people for you to chat with. So for us, we have several data points that we pull from. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I would also say, if you don't have relationships, start building relationships. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm sure most of these other people would be more than welcome. You'd be amazed at how many times people like us offer that to connect with people and we get no follow-up, right? So one of those things is, you stand out when you connect, when we have a good conversation. When you're in the interview process, show up on time or early, look like you want to be there. I mean, I just recently went through a hire and, there were people that were interviewing for the role that were saying they wanted to do it, but there was no energy or follow-up or, engagement. So I think during that interview process, make sure that you're letting people know that you really want the job, asking them questions. Is there anything that would keep me from getting this job, right? Because they might tell you, well, you don't have this experience and you just forgot to put it on your resume, and you have something that could be similar to talk about it. So I would just emphasize that piece, that once you getting in the door to have the interviews, right? I mean, that I feel like it's a statistical piece, right? You just got to send as many out as possible to get that. Once you have that, really work very hard in that process to make sure people know.
And your professors, I'm sorry, talk about when you do a phone screen, believe it or not, how you dress, the phone screen, how you come across, even in the conversation over the phone, we all know. If we've been in, we have that conversation, we can tell whether you're fully engaged in the interview. We can tell whether you're distracted or not. That sounds silly, but we've been doing it for a long time. We know what we're listening for. So, when you show up, as Karen mentioned, dress to impress was something I learned, I'm going to date myself, back in DECA in high school. So dress to impress, whether you're going to McDonald's for a job or you're going to an executive level position that you're interviewing for, you always dress to impress for the position and always be fully engaged with the conversation.
Even if you just go in to pick up an application.
Exactly.
Don't show up in your sweats.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a big pet peeve.
Or to bring it back in.
It's like, can you please not come into my office in sweatpants? That's not appropriate.
Yeah.
But she was talking about taking advantage of opportunities like this right here to come up and say hi to us, ask us one-on-one. We mentioned the A conference, in 2 weeks, I think.
Still got my cards.
I mean, my staff's going to be there. My hiring managers are going to be there. There's going to be other vendors that are there. There's a lot of local come up and meet. Those impressions, one-on-one stuff. If my manager comes back to me and says, "Hey, I went to this conference up in Marshall, and these two guys really impressed me with their interviews. Can we look at bringing them on as a temp?" I'm going to tell them yes because I trust my manager's opinion. So.
As somebody who just went through kind of an interview process for the technical data scientist position, whenever we do interviews, the technical piece that we give them is a project, and it's intentionally vague so that we can either see, one, how they go about solving a problem without having all the information, or two, if they're comfortable to reach out and ask the questions that need to be asked to actually solve the problem. So if you do end up getting some sort of technical assignment, I would definitely encourage you to if it's vague or something doesn't make sense to you, to either reach out to the person that gave you it, and they might just be wanting to know your thought process. So that's helpful.
I have something to add. The whole idea of professionalism, you have an excellent opportunity to practice that in college as well before you even get to the work. So being on time, turning in things on time, dressing appropriately. I hate sweatpants every day. So it's really something, you got 4 years to practice.
See, that wasn't actually sweatpants. That wasn't actually allowed in my business classes at UC. The professors would be like, "You're not coming into my class looking like that," and they'd kick them out. It's just how it was.
So what your parents are telling you, what your professors are telling you, what your professionals are telling you, we're not wrong. We promise.
Yeah, I had somebody apply for one of our entry-level positions, and they walked in with they had just had khakis on and a short button-up, and they sat in the chair with the legs crossed and put the arms up behind their head, and I just immediately on that, I was like, no. Nope. 5 minutes, get this guy out of here.
Here's something else to consider, and you should really take this pretty seriously. You could come into an interview with the hiring manager, you have that individual's name, you're planning to meet with he or she. But that manager may call in 4 or 5 other technical resources to interview. Those resources are there strictly to see what your technical competency is. But they may go back to their cube or their desk, and they may do and every one of you may are maybe hiring manager, but you better believe the individuals pretend to do that. So your presence in social media, especially as you're getting closer towards graduation, is going to be extremely critical, because many of you eventually will secure some type of background investigation, top secret or secret security clearance. A lot of times we don't think about it because in college you're enjoying yourself, having fun, as well as working hard. But it is critical that you're aware of that because whether you're a contractor or a federal employee, that will happen. So just be aware every time you click the, what is it, Facebook and other social medias, that you're aware of your presence there.
I'm going to kind of steal this from one of the marketing vice presidents, but when does your interview start? When does the official interview start? I mean, so you've got a job interview scheduled for that day. When does it start? It starts then, but it also starts when you leave the house. You stop at McDonald's to get a cup of coffee, and somebody jostles you in line. That may be somebody that's going to be interviewing you a little bit, or you cut someone off. You don't. We're in West Virginia.
I have a great story about this. When I went to go apply for my first information security job, there was this dude running down the hallway trying to catch the elevator, and I didn't want to be late, but also didn't want to be like really rude and just hit the closed door button because it was closing, so I was like, oh, screw it. And so I hit the open door button. And this guy comes in and he looks at me, he goes, where are you going? I was like, 10th floor. He's like, oh, you're who I'm interviewing. And I was like, oh, thank God I did not show up.
So that does a couple of things.
That close.
It does protect those kind of maybe inconvenient experiences, but it also kind of gets you in that mindset as you get ready to go in there and talk and present. You've worked yourself into that mindset and you're a little less nervous, you're a little bit more comfortable, you've been thinking about what you're going to say and things like that. You're going to come across a lot more professional. So when you get ready to leave the house for the interview, your interview has started.
And it never stops.
Yeah.
Your interview never stops. So once your career progresses, when you walk into your job every day is an interview. You want to impress these managers, you want to impress these individuals, these managers. Every day's an interview. If you intern, you need to think about that. How you dress, how you present yourself every day. Leave what what's going on at home, leave it at the front door when you come into your workplace. Every day is an interview. You want to progress in your career, you need to remember that.
I had 3 internal applications for my manager position, and that's exactly the mantra I used. From the time I knew you wanted this job till I hire that job, this is your real application. So yeah, interns, if I'm lucky enough to get some of my Marshall interns to hire on, it'd be great because when you leave a good impression, you know your job skills, we know how you fit with the team. Yeah.
I think one of the things that you can hear from everybody that's talking about the various things that they're looking at, nothing's off limits for the employer that's looking for you. Now we don't do this, but I've heard of this before, is while they've got the employee in and going through the interview, someone just kind of walks around and just kind of peeks in their car just to see how messy it is. Because you're going to be in a cube environment, how you're going to leave the cube, or you organize. Everything, nothing's off limits in there.
Early on in my career, I was hiring for warehouse individuals. So when the guy was coming through the gate, or he got the window, watch that person. So depending on how they were to get in the door, I knew how eager they were to have the position. So I know we're talking about hiring and that kind of thing, but we're watching, believe it or not.
No pressure.
We have the added benefit at the Capitol for it. Parking is not easy on the Capitol complex at all. And so, I always warn people, because I don't think it's fair, it could take you 30 minutes. You might literally have to park at Lately Field and figure out how to get in our office. If you haven't planned for that, after I've given...
So one of the things that always concerned me in an interview, or even working with a new team where I am today, is, am I good enough to work with this team? So to be interactive here again, what are some of the concerns you guys have as you think about entering the workforce, or even having an interview that we could help you kind of work through?
That's a really good question. What kind of concerns? You hit there day one. You think your engines are what? concerns that you might have also, like you said, take that out.
So something I think about that, every college you need different preparation methods, but I meant just like different experiences, hires, believe it, or how. I don't even know what to do about that or what to think about that, except for talking to you guys.
So
That's helpful.
you mind if I respond?
Yes, I don't mind.
So use that to your advantage. Your resume doesn't define who you are, right? It's just a way to get in the door, so to speak. It's important, but really show kind of your diversity in what you've done compared to other folks, even other students. When you get that chance to sit in front of the interviewer, that'll be your strength. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of my thought there.
Well, and you might have more input on this, but I see a lot of students submit the same resume with the same information to the jobs they're applying. And when you're straight out of school, you can customize it to the position. Like if I'm looking for something with a lot of networking experience, take the time and really emphasize the networking classes that you've done. If I'm hiring for, replacing our Cisco device, if you've taken Cisco certificate, I don't need to see everything. You want to stand out for the job. So don't be afraid to change your resume. I don't think I've submitted the same resume to any of my jobs I've ever applied to.
So look at requirements. When there's a job, there's a general description usually, and then there's requirements, right? It's usually you need a bachelor's degree, you need a master's degree, right? Or whatever those are. Okay, we'll check education, did that, right? But what else? And there's a list of all these other things. Make sure you pick something that qualifies you for everything in there, because sometimes there's even a grid and they'll go through and check things off. Okay, this person passes, move them on to interview status.
For government work, I can give a cheat sheet on that. Government hires, they have a skills, it's very regimented. If it says do X, do Y, do Z, you know how you used to hate writing incomplete sentences where you used to have to turn the question into a statement? That is one of the easiest ways to get through that NeoGov type application. Any of those, because it's a computerized process that really looks for keywords and stuff in your applications. So you can game the system to your advantage to at least get into the door to get there.
Oh, gee.
I didn't say that, but yeah, it'll at least tell me what you can do.
One of the things I think that students do not utilize enough is their career services they have on campus.
100%.
That individual at career services can help you tailor your resume to what that job requirement is. That department is absolutely phenomenal, and they can help you out. Trust me, I know.
We rewrite the interns' resumes. When they're leaving our office, I'll review the resumes and help them do it, yeah.
That's what we do in our internship too.
Yeah.
So most of our students are going to have very little experience. So they're not going to meet many of the qualification requirements of a job. Should they apply anyway?
I think I'd take just a little notice with that, because they do have experience. They do work on student projects. They do capstones. There's internships. They might not have 2 years at a company doing something, but you do have experience. And that's the stuff we want to hear, is that experience, not the coursework you did in C++, but the projects that you worked on, your capstone experiences, the research that you do on your own when you're in your home lab and you're building a Linux cluster or something. That's what we want to hear about, and that's the experience that you can bring when it's showing that, hey, we want someone with, a couple of years experience.
And that's something that I've seen on a few resumes here recently, is that exactly, here's, capstone course, here's what it was, and here's what we did. So you're exactly right. That's something else that we look at.
And I would add to that, Rick, if they're not having any experience, it's kind of your own fault. Because there are so many opportunities at this university for you to gain experience, whether that's an internship through IT, whether it is volunteering somewhere in Huntington or even on campus. there are opportunities to build those, maybe some experience or leadership experience.
We get a lot of that volunteer.
Yeah.
Volunteered for a nonprofit organization in the local community, sets up websites, networks they're building, that type of stuff. We see that all the time. That's experience. We'll accept that.
Hackathons, user
Yes.
groups,
Love those.
Meetups.
there's tons of opportunity. You just have to I said this when we had the presentation earlier, but it's your career. You have to own your career. You have to take ownership of it.
After, in my resume where I had the classes that I've taken, after that I have a little section called notable projects, and that's where I put this kind of thing. And I found that earlier on in my career, before I had a ton of experience, that was really helpful because they had something they could ask me about. So if you're looking for some sort of wording, I call mine notable projects.
Could you kind of more about the preparation for the technical interview?
So the goal of the technical interview is really to kind of understand your technical level of expertise. So it's not something that you really should, do a cram session for. It should be something that you've been doing through your collegiate career in building those technical skills, and it's kind of just showing what your technical ability is now at this point. So if you're really worried about the technical skills and you're thinking, I'm going to just cram and get through it, whether it be on an exam or on a phone screen, you won't believe how many times we hear, when we hear it, we can Google too, so we Google that and have it up, and we can see what you're reading right back. It's very, very telling when that happens.
It's okay not to know every single thing.
Yeah.
That's okay, because, we keep saying it's a common theme. You don't have to know everything that you think you know. That's okay. You can learn it as long as you're open and willing to learn and be taught. You have that, and that we keep talking about. That's what's important. You're going to hit some of those things on that job description. That's why we reached out to you. That's why, for instance, for me, when you made it screen, obviously there's something on your resume that intrigued my interest. So once you've made it through the culture screen, you go to the technical team, and the technical team says, yeah, we want to talk to them. Obviously, there's something on your resume that has piqued their interest as well. It's okay not to know everything. That's
And
okay.
it sometimes could be something really crazy on there. We've had people that we've hired, a lot of people come in with C++ experience or Java experience or this or database and cloud, but someone puts in there, I did some work with an Arduino. I've been playing around with an Arduino at home. It piqued our interest. We want to talk to that person a little bit more and see what their curiosity and what their problem solving looks like. So think of those differentiators between yourselves. All the CS programs, they're not cookie cutter, but they're very similar. So look for those discriminators that stand you apart.
Do you guys with your technical, for us, and really us felt thinking you know everything. Even if you come out of, the country's best IT program, there's going to be gaps. You haven't gotten the field and how messed up some of our organizational issues are. So I meant that. But yes, it's not necessarily. You need to be, like you said, it's not trusted in class in it, and I just haven't had the opportunity to apply it.
Yeah.
Anybody have any parents that work in IT?
I have an uncle that graduated from here. He does. I actually don't know what he does at all. It's something big because he doesn't talk about it ever.
Okay. Well, if you ever get a chance, just between you, just be curious and find out, get some good tips from him. I'm sure he'll help you. Yep.
So what are your all's typical days look like? What's your day at work look like? Traveling to Marshall?
Yeah, because I lead a team, a lot of the times is syncing with our team members to make sure they're working on the most important projects, right? That they're focused on the things they can control and not the things they can't control. So some of that is just the people management. But for the most part, our team meets with customers every day, comes to events like this, meets students. We, for instance, this week in West Virginia, there's the TSS K-12 conference. So a number of K-12 educators are there, and they're learning not only from Cisco, but a number of different vendors. So our team is there meeting with the customers, understanding what piques their interest, what problems they're having. Yesterday, we brought our entire team in to learn about our technology. So there's some different things around our collaboration products that have changed in the last 4 months. So we brought the team in, we showed them, all the different updates around our video endpoints, talked about go-to-market strategies in terms of customer environments that we could sell into. So that's what it looks like for me.
It's kind of hard to describe what a typical day looks like because like I said, I do work for a startup, so it's we iterate quickly. The technology is changing constantly. What I do, I get up in my pajamas and I work from home. It's great. I talk about it all the time. But working from home is nice. A lot of the time, my day starts out with like a meeting. We have like what we call squads. It's an idea from Amazon. It's technical meetings basically, where we're continuing to just build out our product at this point. And then after those meetings, I will typically be working on models the rest of the day. We've got tons of data sets. I get to play around with the dark web some, which is really cool. And then, I basically spend the rest of my day trying to figure out models for our product. So, interesting.
So if you haven't figured it out yet, I like to talk, and I talk a lot. So I have to stay in my office, often to not bother my developers. But my title is Organizational Development Manager, but what I would be within another organization would be like an HR manager. So anything that you would find within an HR function is what I do. New hire, orientation, onboarding, recruiting, offboarding, team member issues, problems, having to deal with that kind of thing. It hasn't happened since I've been there, thank goodness. But it's happened in my prior experience. So just that full gamut of HR is what I do. My day, it just depends. I start with a daily stand-up at 9:15 for resources, for hiring and recruitment. That's how my day begins, and then it kind of progresses from there.
So as the CISO, I'm responsible for the strategic security of, the executive branch of the state of West Virginia. It kind of mirrors what you do a lot, making sure my teams are doing the right activity and focusing on the right thing and not worrying about one particular thing that gets them hung up. We do a lot of security engineering. It's one thing, basically, where somebody wants to have an application or have a solution and they want to implement it. Well, we need to make sure the taxpayers' data is still safe. So we review a lot of implementation plans. The SOC, which is our Security Operations Center, their day-to-day task is more hackerish. They have their tool set, they make sure there is no abnormalities. If they do see an abnormality or a blip in one of their tools, they spin up an incident response. They sometimes chase down the particular issue, deploy tools where needed, so we can either stop a malware attack or, limit a phishing attack, that type of stuff. We are all over the gamut though, because the shop does have moments.
So I'm a chief architect. So my day usually starts out when I get to the data entering, all of that. I know where some of our hotspots are for that day, for that week, or some of the projects that are going on. So I'll walk around to each of the individual teams and I'll check with the team members. Are there any roadblocks? Is there anything that I can do right now to clear roadblocks so that we can get past that? If there are minor ones, I tend to try to clear them myself, but if they're major ones, I have to escalate them up to Stan or to John. That's the morning. Then we have the manager's call. We get on and we talk about the shape of our projects, the shape of the data center, the shape of our client, and what the initiatives are, as we're tracking statuses on them. The remainder of the day, it changes. There could be proposals that I have to write for new, could be solutions I have to do in terms of white papers, technical architectures. It could be attending strategy sessions to work on the focus of where we're trying to move to next. Right now, a lot of it has been all centered around cloud, and it's working with that team as we're developing that cloud strategy and assembling that team. And it's a lot of them that we have on that team. There's several of them this is their first job in IT. There's, I think, 3 or 4 of them that this is their first job in IT out of 12. And so I go over and I walk with them, make sure that they've got their mentors, that they're getting, you know, they understand what the tasks are, and again, making sure that they don't have any of the roadblocks.
Thanks, Michael. So my day really starts the night before. I put together a task list of what I want to get completed the next day. I go through my previous day's tasks to see what's left, what I can mark complete. I answer some emails. And when I wake up the next morning, I want to wake up early. There's nothing that's going to give you advantage over your peers than having a couple extra hours every day. So while most people are waking up at 7 a.m., if you can wake up at 5 a.m., get some exercise out of the way, or do some email, you're ahead of the game. So when you get into the office, you don't feel like you're behind. You're ready to go. We have an 8:15 call where we check the status of all the operations. So I'm responsible for not only the business and developing and growing that business from a sales perspective, but also making sure the delivery and operations are set. We have a 9 o'clock call that Michael mentioned, which is really a management scrum. So each of the managers, there's about 12 people on the call, go through what they accomplished the day before, what they plan to do the day, and then the goals they're working towards for the next week. And then I'm either meeting with clients, which support the federal government, particularly the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and I meet with the CTO, the CIO, if available, and a bunch of the executive leadership at the agency to find out their needs, what their challenges are, so we can address those from an operational perspective, but also more importantly from a strategic perspective. The goal of our organization is to figure out how our IT service contributes to the success of their business, period. And I meet with a lot of our partners, Ruth being one of them, and to try and work up good deals, and that's pretty much my day.
And my day is pretty much similar to John, because I am typically lockstep and joined hip with John. In addition to that,
He tells me what to do.
A lot of internal, I guess you would say, marketing about our cloud strategy that we're focused on, and Michael is a critical component of that. I just want to add to what Michael had alluded to. He's a huge mentor of some of our entry-level resources, and I would say the discriminator between equally technically savvy individuals comes down to that personality, that drive, that smile, that excitement. And so that's what we do all day, we interview, we have lots of meetings and a lot of dashboards that we have to put together and convincing senior VPs of our strategy and mission.
You do tend to work a while before you get into nothing but meetings.
Yeah.
I realize we're all at the point where we're in a lot of meetings. But I did have a good set of my career where I did not have meetings. I actually did tech work.
So our So like our entry level at the cloud have a 10:30 scrum, and that's the only meeting they have for the day. The rest of it, they're in Jira, looking at the issues that have been assigned to them, working through those issues. It might build this module and something, or test this. That's kind of more what their day-to-day looks like. A lot less meetings,
yes.
A lot less calls.
Yeah, I have a staff member, one of my tech manager, like 4 times, which means he takes on that role until somebody else can be assigned to it. And I'm like, when are you going to actually apply? And he's like, I don't want to do meetings. I want to do tech. I want to stay in. That's perfectly fine. There are people that make that career choice. You respect them, and then like some of us, we've got sucked up the management chain, and we live in meetings
and email.
Yeah, emails are just.
And these two gentlemen in particular, if you go to look for a blank spot on their calendar to schedule a time with it, well, you're not going to find it, so you're going to have to take and join like either 2 or 3 or 4 meetings that they have at that hour block. and then they have to multitask through it or whatnot, but
I
their
actually put
calendars
part
are
ones and
packed.
part two. For Josh Spence, our CTO, I'll put a part one discussion for like 15 minutes and then a part two discussion like the next day. Yeah.
Any other questions before we move on to our next session? What we have?
Do y'all offer internships?
Yes.
All of you?
Yes. Intern.wv.gov.
There's papers up front for her office. You guys can always reach out to me. There's a contact link on the webpage that'll come to me if you have any questions or need to get in touch with anyone. I know Cortland, you guys do internships?
We don't have an internship program established, but it depends on the situation and the students. That's how we work with the internships at the moment. So we do have a partnership with Generation West Virginia. And then we do have an internship, but it's only available to two-year degree students. So we call that the Learn and Earn program.
You're not sure probably?
No, we have like an 8-month runway, so we're out on interns. But we do hire, yeah, startup is interesting. We do hire quite often. There's actually 3 Marshall grads that work at Terbium. So I think more than any other school, which is cool. So if you guys are interested.
Yeah, and we're looking for engineers, engineer ones, so entry level now. I have a project right now I need 2 hires for.
I think that's all across the industry
Yeah.
right now. We're all
Yeah.
looking.
We
for-
have open positions.
Yeah.
We need people.
You're all at the best time to be in the market right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
We're
It is
hiring.
wide open.
What'd you say there was a 2% unemployment in technology?
Yeah, in some places,
2 to
we were talking to
3%.
Ruth at lunch, some places 0%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
All right, any other questions?
So if you need to connect on LinkedIn, where can you get the contact information?
Just come up to us at the end. And
Are you going to send out a follow-up?
Or all of their.
Yeah. I was gonna- Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. They have a webpage.
Yeah.
Hey, you definitely find us there. Find us there.
All right. Thank you guys.